Goblin breeding bay may have you taking a cum bath, however, it's okay. Let's grab a ShamWow and talk about the mating manual, which is where the lore for the world of my mangas, The Devil's Deal, featuring goblins on the cover, and Night of Slaughter take place, and so let's jump into it. So in chapter 12, we observe goblins in their natural habitat after being dispatched by a bunch of cultists hanging out in a cave. But in our last video, we learned that goblins used to be a normal race, just like humans, elves, and orcs. Well, that was until the orcs and the forest elves got jealous of the progression that the goblins made, hit them with a biological nuke, effectively, and turned them into the goblins that we know and hate together today. We learned that they use baths like this filled with Jesus juice, thumb sap, and water to make babies. And they do this by kidnapping humans, orcs, dwarves, and also Brimborn, putting them in this bath, and then they will soak until they eventually become pregnant. Eventually, after trying to soak enough babies into this thing, they will eventually get something called a Striga Goblin. The one that we're going to talk about today is the alchemist Striga Goblin. Because much like the humans, they don't really care about ethics when it comes to getting the job done. And they will, instead of using those tubs, they will start building apparatuses to hook the females that they capture up to these devices to basically start feeding them a more purified concoction of the, baby making juice. This lowers the recovery time that women have to have before they can get pregnant again. This decreases the time between when they can get pregnant. And this right here, what you're actually seeing is a changeling milking farm, because changelings produce a high protein, high vitamin sap from their tails. And so in order to keep the changelings locked into place, they put them in collars, cut their limbs off, remove their tails to go directly to the source. And then humans and other mortal races will basically use this as a form of punishment and product making in order to kind of get back at the changelings for what happened during the Great War. Because, killing the kids in the streets just ain't getting the job done. But when a Striga Goblin is born, we have to ask the question, well, if a Striga Goblin has another Striga Goblin, will that one be smarter than the first one? No, because the knowledge that they gain in order to build these contraptions that have higher level thoughts are natural and ingrained in them. And many people have the belief that a great fate at some point blessed the goblins with this knowledge as a way to punish mortals for their transgressions against nature. But the alchemist Striga Goblin is just the beginning of something that is much, much worse. You have the general Striga Goblin. You have the king Striga Goblin. You have the emperor Striga Goblin. You have the mage Striga Goblin. There are a dozen subclasses of Striga Goblins that all specialize and bring new ways of destruction to mortals with their birth. Which is why the adventurers go to as soon as the Striga Goblin is bored, they basically send a raid out to go deal with it. That's why some goblin-loving diamond subscribers decided we want to get an original character into the lore that's going to restore goblins to what they are, which is how the Goblin Restoration Association got started. And so if you would actually like to help with this, go ahead, grab a diamond sub, and then put points with your original character into restoring the goblins, and we can actually change the world lore. This is the style of D&D interaction that I wanted when I introduced the Diamond tier, is so you guys can impact the lore in your own ways. But hey, you can read the series online for free or grab a physical copy of The Devil's Deal or Night of Slaughter while I got copies left.